Well, hello, we're Mike and Lyn Thomas, the European Directors of 2=1. We'd like to talk today about expectations.
As you can see on the PowerPoint screen to the side of us.
Yes, so before we start, we just explain that the screen will show 4 languages, and the French language will be shown in orange, the Portuguese in yellow, the Spanish in green, and the English in that lovely pink colour. So as you go through, you can look at the language that is easiest for you to read. So we're going to look at the following themes. What are expectations? Expectation disappointments, biblical expectations, and dealing well with expectations. So we're going to start off by, what are expectations? Well, expectations are stronger than hopes or things we may wish for. Expectations are more than just a hope, but something we think will be said or will happen. There's a sense of belief that it is possible it will happen. We have expectations of ourselves or others, or of circumstances. But often these expectations don't happen because they're our expectations, not those of the people or circumstances which we are depending on to fulfill them.
So the trouble is we're going to have disappointments in life because our expectations will not always be met. Sadly, we're disappointed by these things because they're usually my expectations, not Mike's expectations. Mike will have his own set of expectations, and generally they will not be the same.
Normally not the same.
Yeah, in fact, nearly always not the same. So if we're thinking about the 5 love languages, about different aspects of life, we thought we would look at expectations and the possibility of them not being fulfilled by going through each of them one by one. So the first one is about words of affirmation. We would perhaps hope that our spouse would say lovely things to us on a regular basis.
Like, I love you.
And I love you too, Mike, thank you. But that's not necessarily the case. And if it is for one of us, it probably isn't for the other person, because not everybody is good with words. We saw a musical recently called Ghost. And in that, the woman used to say to the man, I love you, a lot of times. But it was like something just sort of stuck here and he couldn't say it. And so he would say back to her,
ditto,
which was not really what she wanted. But so we are often, our expectations for having lots of loving words are not fulfilled. And of course, even if they are fulfilled, it's still really important that we actually do fulfill what we say we're going to do.
Second love language is acts of service. We may want our spouse to serve us more, to help us more, maybe by cooking meals or tidying the house or even cleaning the house, looking after the children while we're doing something else, perhaps giving us a lift somewhere. And the list goes on and on.
Yes.
We can all help each other out, but some people do this naturally. Others find it difficult or don't even think about it.
And the next one is quality time.
Very important one.
Yes, Mike might think this is the first one, but actually there is no order of this list, but it is Mike's first one. And as you can see this couple on the screen having a lovely walk together, they're enjoying having quality time together. But that's not necessarily what both people want to do. Other people might think of just something different. One person might be thinking, but we could do that if I do this job first, and if we do that, make that phone call and whatever else. And then the other person is disappointed because those things never run out and there's never time to enjoy that quality time.
The next love language we're considering is physical touch. This is something where we have, could just be touching someone on the shoulder or putting their arms around them, which Lyn enjoys.
That's my
it's
first
her
love
first
language.
love language, yes. But some people need to be touched regularly. It's what they enjoy. It's how they feel that love, and they like it in just normal everyday life, rather than in a particular circumstance. In the bedroom, frequency of our sexual intimacy can be a minefield. It can be a very difficult issue for us or for couples. And even if the frequency is agreed and you're happy with what you want to happen and how it should happen, could be very different in our expectations. So we have to understand that we have differences.
Yes. And then the final one is about gifts. Some of us love receiving gifts and perhaps even giving gifts too. And other people don't see that gifts are particularly important. And it's always a challenge to try and find the right sort of gift to give someone. I'm sure we've all received a gift which we thought, I'm not so sure about that, or we've just positively disliked it, felt it was a waste of money or whatever. It's a really difficult thing to get right. So if we're expecting a certain gift and we don't get that, then we can be disappointed very easily.
What do we think in terms of biblical expectations? Are there expectations that people have in the Bible? Well, yes, actually, all the way through, we can see these expectations. However, we've picked 3 as examples here. So the first one comes from Luke, and it talks about Mary and Martha, and Jesus is coming to see them. Martha has expectations that Jesus will be given a good welcome, have a nice meal, he'll be comfortable there, he'll probably be prepared with a nice bedroom to go into. And she expects Mary to give her a hand doing all these things. But Mary doesn't do that. What does she do? She goes and sits at Jesus' feet and listens to what he's saying. Martha's not happy. Mary's not meeting her expectations, and Martha's having to do all what she considers the work herself. And so she says to Jesus, Mary's not helping me. I'm having to do everything. And she wants Jesus to tell Mary to help her. Then the next one is Lazarus. Again, Martha and Mary, slightly different circumstances. They call on Jesus because Lazarus is very unwell. And they want Jesus to come and pray over him like he has with so many others and to heal him so that he's fully well. But what happens is Jesus doesn't come immediately. Jesus had other plans, and Lazarus died. Mary showed her disappointment when Jesus arrived. She said, Lord, if you'd been here, my brother wouldn't have died. The final example is the prodigal son. This comes from Luke 15. The younger son expects the father to give him his inheritance. He wasn't due it because it's not due the inheritance until the father dies, but the father agrees he'll do that. Having got the inheritance, he expects to have a wonderful time spending the money. But this doesn't work out. When he runs out of money and he decides to go home, he expects a really frosty, difficult welcome from his father, having wasted all the money that he'd been given. But instead, he gets a good welcome. In fact, he gets a wonderful welcome from his father. But the older son isn't happy. He expected his father to appreciate him more because he's the one that stayed at home and looked after his father. And he certainly didn't expect his father to treat his younger son in the way he did. What a lot of expectations.
So, how do we deal with expectations, and how do we make it better that we don't actually get disappointed all the time? How do we actually cope with that? We saw in those Bible stories that expectations were part of everyday life too. But what we expected isn't always the right answer. When Martha complained to Jesus that Mary wasn't helping her, Jesus told her that she didn't have the right priorities, that she should have been enjoying sitting listening to him too, not spending so much time with all the preparations for the meal and whatever else. Last Christmas, as usual, we were expecting our family to come, and we were sorting out what we were going to eat each day. And our daughter made this comment, I quote, "Do remember, it doesn't all have to be gourmet. We're more interested in spending time together than all the food being amazing." I think that's an amazing meal there, providing you like beef. And that's the sort of thing that Mike and I would like to cook. But she reminded us that we need to get our priorities right to enjoy each other's company rather than to just have one gourmet meal after the other. Perhaps Mary was doing that wrong. Thinking to the second story, Martha complained that Jesus didn't come when they asked him to come to pray over Lazarus when he was ill. Of course, we now know later that that was Jesus' plan to wait until Lazarus had died and then to resurrect him from the dead. But they didn't know that. But perhaps they could have considered that there was a reason why he didn't come. And perhaps we need to consider there are reasons why other people fail us in their expectation because they're in their time scale, not our time scale.
Perhaps we think if something happens to us, like, let's say, the younger son getting his inheritance early, then all will be well. Perhaps we have the tendency to think that things will be different if we have more money, or the children grow up and we have time to ourselves, or we have a better job, or we get fitter, or a bigger home. All these different things that we might think will make our life better. Do we have expectations of others, like the older son did with his father? And he felt unappreciated. He felt undervalued. But his father already appreciated him and pointed out that he was always with him and he appreciated that. And in fact, everything that he now had was his son's. We really need to turn things around, turn the story round and see the other person's view. See things more clearly from the perspective of the other person. Often we're blinded as to why other people do things the way they do. Usually they're not trying to upset us, really, or to be difficult.
But we often think that they are.
But we have different ways of doing things.
A very simple way of avoiding the disappointment of failed expectations is to talk about them with our spouse or the person with which we have the expectation, so that you can at least attempt to meet them or explain why they can't meet them because it may just not be possible for them. Some years ago, when we were just in our 30th year of marriage,
Long time ago now.
Yes, which is a pearl anniversary. In England, we have different gifts for different years of marriage, and 30 is pearl. And I saw a lovely pearl necklace in that box, perhaps. And it was a good price. And I thought I would love Mike to give me that for our pearl anniversary, which was not that now, it was like 6 months later.
Long time later.
A long time later. And Mike was in the same place as me, but he wasn't looking at the pearl necklace because he was talking to somebody else. So I went over to Mike and I said to him, I would love you to give me this necklace on our anniversary in 6 months' time. So would you please buy it now? And he did. He did. He fulfilled my expectations beautifully. But on our anniversary, we were going to be away on holiday. And I knew we were going to celebrate the day when we were on holiday. And it would be nice to have the necklace on while I did. So this meant that Mike had to bring the necklace on holiday 6 months later. And so I thought, is he going to remember this? And I thought, no, I accepted my expectation was totally unrealistic. And so I said to Mike, just before we went on holiday, remember that necklace that you bought? Can you please bring it with you on holiday so that I can wear it on our anniversary? And what happened, Mike?
I couldn't immediately find it.
No, we looked and we couldn't find it. So we went on holiday without the necklace, even though I thought I was being realistic with that. The good thing was, though, while we were on holiday, what happened, Mike?
We went to a special shop that specialised in pearl, and we bought a beautiful necklace.
Yes, so that was lovely. So I enjoyed that, and I wore that necklace while we were away on our anniversary. And then we came home, and what happened then?
Then I found the first one, and you had two.
Indeed. So sometimes it can be a bonus, but that's generally not the case. So sometimes our expectations are just, especially when we're hoping of a surprise, have to be just put aside because it's just not going to happen, is it?
Another way of avoiding disappointments caused by different expectations is to pray together. In the lesson in Marriage for Life, we talk about praying together and we talk about agreement. And we say the best way of coming to an agreement is to both pray about it, pray together, and then find the Lord's plan for us and agree together what we're going to do and what our expectations are. And if we agree our expectations, we agree we can fulfill them, and we're not going to disappoint each other because we've agreed beforehand and understand beforehand what we want to do and what the other expects of us.
So what we're going to do, we're going to have a breakout in a moment for you to be able to discuss things. And we're going to ask you to think about what are your expectations at the moment for each other or of each other. Have they been realistic? Or were you a bit like us where we were disappointed with things because they didn't work out? It could be expectations for your relationship, for your home, for your children, your work, your studies. There's lots of things. And what do you need to put aside or change to make your expectations more real? And finally, what new expectations should you have of each other? Now, the people in the breakout rooms are going to have these questions in your language, so don't worry about remembering that now. They will talk about that when you get there. But thank you for listening to us. God bless you.